This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states.
Ever wonder what your lashes are destined for? The cards have spoken. Maybelline New York Mascara does it all. Whether you crave fully fan lashes with Lash Sensational, big, bold volume from the Colossal, a dramatic lift with Falsies Lash Lift, or natural-looking volume from Great Lash, your perfect lash future awaits. Manifest your best mascara today. Shop Maybelline New York and discover your lash destiny. Shop now at Walmart.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ACAST and use code ACAST at checkout.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and help each other understand.
Today, Anthony Spadafora tells us about his experience ditching the laptop and more from your emails.
That's right. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Huyen Dow.
Let's start with what you need to know with the really big story. I put that extra really in there just to emphasize the bigness. A federal judge found that Google abused its dominant position in key markets in online ads technology. Judge Leonie Brinkema, we'll find out later when someone corrects me, found that Google had violated competition laws in the ad markets for ad exchanges and ad servers. This is all related to Google's ads business, obviously. These are technologies that actually helped websites sell ad space and determine the placement of ads across the web. Now, the judge cited Google's practice of tightly integrating its ad server, that's DoubleClick for publishers, with its ad exchange, that's called AdX. And Brinkema said this, quote, enabled the company to establish and protect its monopoly power in these two markets, end quote. Brinkema did not, however, and this is important, find Google to be a monopolist an illegal monopolist, let's say, in the market for tools that are used by advertisers to purchase display ads. This essentially means that Google isn't found guilty of dominating ads on the open web. So yes, guilty with the tools behind the scenes, not found guilty in this case of how they were surfacing these ads across the open web, the web at large, because there are a lot of other ad markets surfacing web ads there as well. The court is going to consider penalties, which could include forcing Google to divest its ad technology business in part or in total. And, just a few important things to note, and then we can kind of bat this around a little bit. This is not a consumer-facing ruling. I suppose if the third part that Google was not found to be abusing their monopoly position in, that of the display ads, if they were found guilty there, maybe that would have some sort of consumer-facing impact. But the tools behind the scenes aren't things that just the general consumer is going to run into. And also really important to understand as you and I, when we were kind of talking with Tom Merritt about this prior to recording, because he has certainly helped us form a little bit better of an understanding of this pretty complicated thing, this story, is that a lot of times in situations like this, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, is going to ask for the moon. They're going to come out and say, Google, we really feel like in this case, the result should be Google has to get rid of its ad business in total. And the reality is that, it's probably pretty unlikely that that's going to happen in total. It's not an impossibility, but it's probably going to be somewhere met in the middle, somewhere of finding some sort of restitution or, some sort of an agreement that makes more sense than just upending Google's entire business. Because this would be a pretty huge loss if Google had to get rid of that. But I'm curious to know what you think about this story.
It's definitely very confusing. And I think I've learned a bunch of things today. Again, thank you, Tom Merritt, about the fact that, and as he explained to us, that being a monopoly isn't necessarily the illegal thing, which I think I even myself, up until about 10 minutes ago, had that impression that there's a lot that being a monopoly in itself is bad. But what is bad is like the practices. And it was so interesting just because I think it sounded like, especially reading kind of up on this is that it seems like a lot of times when we have now circled around to Google and all these other big companies and monolithic practices, it feels like, didn't they do the market thing, right? Wherein they became a attractive, powerful resource for publishers and advertisers. And, getting a lot of publishers, on board means that they're very attractive to advertisers. And then when the advertisers flock in, that makes them more effective for publishers. And so you kind of think sometimes, well, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Putting ourselves in a position where we become desirable to whoever our customers are. But then what happens is then they abuse that to kind of reinforce that loop of being attractive on both sides of like this ad sell. So, I agree. Like it's so interesting because I think, as normal people, we always wonder, like, what's the impact of this on us? And then also, like, obviously on Google, like I think we all know by now that Google's business, despite being a tech company, is ads. So it's kind of, I'm curious to see what the restitution would be and how that affects, impacts Google from here on out, because it feels like, and this is maybe a naive reflection on my part, just as a normal average consumer, in this regard, is that will this just have ripple effects down to their other businesses? Because I feel like it seems like a lot of what Google has done, as a technology company, and even though they have like this wide portfolio of like all sorts of different things, we talk about Android all the time, but Chrome, cloud, all these different services, it feels like it all eventually ends up being somewhere about ads and selling, like it all ends up being ads. So it does feel interesting to see where this will turn out, because it does feel like a huge loss for them, especially after the previous loss that they had with the DOJ. I don't know. Will this actually affect anything? Will they be, actually remedy? Like, what's the verb when you have to provide the remedy? They have to provide remedies. Will this actually be significant down the line with appeals? Like, what will happen in the end? I guess for us. As consumers.
Yeah, for us, that's a real big question. And I think, related to this story specifically, the ad tech that's driving, the case behind the scenes, obviously not going to impact you and I, because we aren't, directly working with those tools. Yeah. And a lot of this is really behind the scenes. I think what I'm really curious about as far as like the impact to consumers is everything in aggregate, because, time and time again, the last couple of years have really been and continue to be painted. We're also going to talk about Meta and their court case here in a few minutes, but continue to be painted by this worldwide kind of view, this refreshed view, looking at technology companies like Alphabet and like Meta and looking at their business practices. And, it's not just the US that's saying, okay, wait a minute, let's take a step back. You've gotten a little too big for your britches. Yeah. We got to really drill in here and see. And what are the wider scale impacts of all of these things in aggregate? This is one aspect. And yes, it's big. Google's ads business accounts for around 12%, I believe, of Alphabet's overall business, at least this aspect of it, the ad tech business anyways. So that's pretty significant for a company of Alphabet's size. But this isn't the only case that Google's facing right now. They also lost another antitrust case last year. That had to do with abuse in its dominance in the search market, online, search ads placement, that sort of stuff. The DOJ is calling for, you've got to divest Chrome. And again, coming back to this, and Tom, thank you for kind of pointing this out. They always kind of go for the moon, and then, likely to kind of end up somewhere in the middle. But as a user, I look at Google and the products that I've used, Android, Chrome, interacting with ads on the web, let's say, and I see all these things. I'm like, wow, how could this not shape the product that I interact with in some way, shape, or form? And I think ultimately that's kind of the point too of a case like this. You got to change your business structure and how you approach these things in some way, shape, or form. But how dramatic will that actually be? We don't know.
It feels good. Yeah. And it feels inherently good that, as you said, that governments and different kind of regulating bodies are trying to crack down on, what has been built up over several decades now of this kind of landscape that Google and other big tech companies, like not to exclude anyone, have forged for themselves in our kind of modern tech life. And it's just so interesting. Yeah. It just feel like the impacts are just a little too huge for just us mere mortals to imagine about. But I can't help but feel like it's a positive thing. I think we can always nickel on whether on the correctness, on the tech savviness or the understanding of certain rulings of more governing bodies over the impacts of everyday life and on actual tech of these kind of decisions. But yeah, it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. But it is, I feel like a positive thing. Sorry, what I meant to say was it is a positive thing. It feels like that we're kind of circling around these companies and asking for some kind of accountability and remedies to this very, nice and beneficial landscape they have carved out for themselves for a few decades. So anyway.
Yeah, but indeed. Certainly more to be discussed here as we start to hear what those remedies actually are, those proposed remedies. So that's coming up somewhere in the near future.
Well, we'll keep ourselves and y'all posted. DTNS though is made possible by you, the listener, thanks to Paul Thiessen, Ali Sanjabi, AB Puppy, and Britt Thomas.
Yeah, you're all so awesome, but you're awesome.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. This podcast is brought to you by Ecovacs, the global leader in robotic vacuum and mop innovation. Say goodbye to dirty mop water and grimy floors. The all-new Osmo Roller Mop in the Dbot X8 Pro Omni features breakthrough technology that continuously washes itself as it mops. That means no cross-contamination of filth and bacteria, just impeccably clean floors on a roll. Why settle for spreading dirt around when you can have a mop that truly cleans? Ready to experience the future of floor cleaning? Learn more at ecovacsx8.com/roller. That's ecovacsx8.com/roller.
Hey, you know what would make your customer service help desk way better? Dumping it and then switching to Intercom. But you're not quite ready to make that change. We get it. That's why Finn, the world's leading AI customer service agent, is now available on every help desk. Finn can instantly resolve up to 80% of your tickets, which makes your customers happier and gets you off the customer service rep hiring treadmill. Finn by Intercom, the leading customer service AI agent, now available on every help desk.
I want my dog to live a long, happy life, maybe even hit 19. So I feed them Ollie. Ollie's fresh and nutritious human-grade meals are made to support their health and happiness with protein-packed recipes dogs go crazy for, like beef with sweet potatoes, turkey with blueberries, or lamb with cranberries. Honestly, you might start thinking, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie. Head to ollie.com/healthypup and use code HEALTHYPUP to get 60% off your first box of meals. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/healthypup and enter code HEALTHYPUP to get 60% off your first box. Feed your forever friend with Ollie.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
There's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs.
Well, Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, testified in federal court on Wednesday that TikTok remains his company's biggest competitive threat to date. His legal team argued that TikTok, YouTube, and other social media platforms are posing strong competition to the company. And internal emails demonstrated Meta executives expressing concerns over TikTok's rapid growth, along with questions about whether Meta's products sufficiently compete. Meanwhile, attorneys for Apple, Google, and Snap have criticized Meta for presenting courtroom slides without adequately redacting confidential information. Apple called these disclosures, quote, egregious, while Snap's attorney called out Meta's, quote, cavalier approach and casual disregard for the privacy of other companies in the case.
Yeah, they're saying like, hey, if this was you on the other side, you'd be upset too. And that might actually be the case. But yeah, I mean, when I think about kind of this case and my understanding around it, TikTok is such a force. And I think I don't know. I think it gives short rift, if that is the saying that's coming to mind, to disregard the influence and impact of a social network like TikTok on the business of a company like Meta. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, once again, I feel like Meta has a strong case to be made there as far as that is concerned. When you're talking, about this topic of, their market dominant position. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not Meta alone on an island. No. It really does seem like they're facing some pretty strong competitive wins.
No, especially in this like short form content creation space. I think that's a very fair point. And we've heard and talked about, and probably as individual consumers participated in this battlefield, honestly, for this short form, for short form video content. So for sure.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how that pans out. That case continues, I think, over the next week and a half, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even more. Discord has begun testing a new age verification system in the UK and Australia that requires some users to scan their faces or upload a photo ID in order to access sensitive content. This is, of course, a response to new regulations in those countries that require stronger online protections against adult or potentially harmful materials for minors that might access them. Discord emphasizes that both methods result in no data being retained by the company. Facial scans are processed locally on the user's device without uploading biometric information. Any government-issued ID uploaded for that verification purpose is deleted immediately after it's processed, according to Discord. Artificial intelligence is used to determine whether users meet the age requirement, and accounts found to be underage may be banned with an option to appeal. And, some of the stuff that I was reading about this is like, okay, this is, if anything, this is a sign, potentially a sign of things to come. This is something that we will probably are likely to see more of from other companies.
I just think that's so interesting because something like this, there's always that level. There's always like an assumption or an element of trust, that companies, and I get it. If you don't like this and this sounds icky to you, I totally get it. This 100% understanding on the outside, it sounds very icky. And it all comes down to trust and your ability to either have insight onto how the company's practices and whether the thing that they claim on the outside of not keeping data of everything being local and no actual data leaving that local space, like that very sensitive data of your face or your child's face, doesn't leave that local space. And it just think it's so interesting. Like, and I feel like another case we talked about, maybe even just Microsoft with its preview, or was it the snapshot feature? Like, there's so much element of trust in here. Like, how much do we trust companies to do the right thing? And as someone who works on the inside, sometimes I have absolutely no trust whatsoever in companies to do the right thing. But I just think that's interesting here is that we're going to continue to try to address certain concerns like this age verification, but then the ultimate solution is that concern has so much of an element of trust in it on the companies implementing it.
Indeed.
Well, TikTok is launching a new feature called Footnotes, allowing select users to add relevant info and context to videos. The feature is similar to community notes on X and is aimed at crowdsourcing expertise on subjects so viewers can have a better understanding of the content they watch and more easily spot misinformation. TikTok will continue to work with more than 20 accredited fact-checking organizations to adhere to its moderation policies. The feature is being tested in the US, and contributors can be users over the age of 18 with 6 months on the platform and no guideline violations.
Everybody has their community notes now. But I mean, TikTok doing it, I suppose, a little bit differently than some of the others doing this, and keeping those fact check organizations still kind of involved and integrated. So, I'm good with that. I like that.
Into it.
OpenAI introduced 2 new AI models, O3 and O4 Mini, now available to ChatGPT Plus users. O3 is touted as OpenAI's most advanced reasoning model yet, excelling at coding, math, and science, with O4 Mini offering a more affordable option, strong performance in similar areas. Both models allow for the ability to use and interpret images within the thinking process. So that's another big part of these new models and their capabilities. OpenAI is also launching, this is just another quick piece of related news, Codex CLI, a new coding agent for developers. They have plans to release a more powerful O3 Pro model as well sometime soon. I played around a little bit with O3. I'm actually like feeding it some of my YouTube channel metrics and being like, what can you tell me about like what I'm doing here? And it's kind of impressive. I haven't done that with previous models, so I can't really compare it, but so far it's looking pretty good.
Well, Huyen and Temu announced they will raise prices for U.S. shoppers starting April 25th, 2025. A response to the new U.S. trade policies issued by the U.S. presidential administration. So imported goods from China are set to include a 145% tariff beginning May 2nd, as well as the removal of the de minimis exemption, allowing goods under $800 to enter the country duty-free. Huyen and Temu sites are using this deadline to convince U.S. buyers to, quote, shop now at today's rates ahead of the price increases.
Shop now while things are still cheap, because soon they will not be.
Yes, please get it in while you can.
Yeah, I got to make sure that my daughter doesn't see that.
Oh, gosh. But Dad, we're saving money in the long run by doing all of it now.
Why don't I buy the next 9 months worth of jewelry now, and she'll still want to buy it later. Apple has released urgent software updates for iOS, macOS, iPadOS, tvOS, and visionOS to patch 2 zero-day vulnerabilities that were actively exploited in pretty sophisticated attacks that targeted specific individuals anyways. One flaw was in the core audio system that allowed attackers to execute malicious code by processing a specially crafted audio file. The other enabled attackers with read and write access to bypass pointer authentication that's designed to prevent memory-based attacks. There's no word on who is behind these attacks, but Google's threat analysis group, who happen to also be involved in the discovery of at least the core audio flaw, is suggesting possible links to state-sponsored espionage, surveillance operations, that sort of stuff. Users are advised to install the latest updates immediately. So you've had the warning.
This actually legitimately freaked out my husband when he read the core audio story. And we don't use Apple products, but I think just the idea that this is possible. And so he actually turned off the mic and camera on our Nest Hub, which again is a Google product, not an Apple product. But I think this idea is just really frightening because of the examples that they show of like what they can actually do with just an audio file that you might not even know is happening or is being played. So.
And sometimes nothing feels safe.
Take it all back. I changed my mind.
Yes.
Patreon is launching the ability to live stream content directly on the platform. This gives its creators an alternative to external services like Twitch or YouTube. Live streams are ad-free, can be run from mobile or desktop, are downloadable after the fact, and include features like real-time chat, moderation tools, emoji reactions, and integrations with streaming software like OBS and Streamlabs. The new tool is currently in early access for select creators and will roll out more widely this summer.
Kind of surprised Patreon didn't already have this, but I think it's a good thing to add to the tool set. Creators, love to live stream. We are definitely some of them. But then now it's like, okay, well, now I got to figure out, does it make sense to live stream to yet another platform? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper in the ongoing stories and follow up.
Anthony Spadafora from Tom's Guide recently wrote that he ditched his laptop in favor of a mini PC, AR glasses, and a portable battery. Tom sat down with him to get the details.
Anthony, it's good to have you back. We crossed paths at CES, and it took too long, but it's good to talk to you, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So why did you try this mini PC, X-Real glasses, and battery thing instead of just sticking with a laptop? What motivated you here?
I work from home, and I'm a big desktop person myself, so I really stick to my desk and my using a full-size computer. So I rarely use a laptop, and when I do, like at CES, I usually end up bringing, a mouse, a mechanical keyboard, a portable monitor. So I have all this extra gear. So I'm looking for ways to kind of cut down on what I bring through airport security.
You're not one of those people who can use a tablet to do everything, it sounds like, which neither am I. I know some people like that, but it's too confined. It's too constricting.
Exactly. Yeah.
So walk us through, there's a great article on Tom's Guide that people should look at to get the full details, but give us the summary of what gear you used.
Okay, yeah. So I've always been into mini PCs, and I started reviewing them and looking at them more closely last year. And one of the most interesting ones I tried out was the Codis Mind. And what's neat about it is it's instead of like a cube shape like your typical mini PC, it looks more like a portable hard drive, and it's the only one I've tested so far that you can power via USB-C.
So form factor is a little more portable because it's flatter, right? And then the power situation, that's great.
Yeah, the power situation is great. So, they have a few docks. You can drop it on a dock magnetically if, you need more ports, or, you need to use multiple displays. But, for this project, I realized this is the only mini PC I could power off of a power bank.
Yeah. So power bank makes sense to me because you probably already had a power bank you would use with a laptop, right?
Yeah. So, a large size power bank. And I made sure to get one that was under 25,000 milliamp hours so I could bring it on a plane.
And then what led you to plug in the glasses, and why did you settle on the X-Real ones?
So, I'm always looking at new tech. I'm trying out new stuff every week. And I was thinking about, trying out, maybe the MetaQuest 3 or VR headset. And, my colleague, Jason England, he's really, into the AR glasses. So he suggested those instead and was like, oh, you got to try the X-Real ones. So he set me up with X-Real, and I reached out to Codis and got all the, different, products I needed for this setup.
And the X-Real glasses, they're really just acting as a display for you, right? Are you using them for anything else?
Exactly. They're just a display. They don't have their own battery. They're powered by the device you plug them into. But with the X-Real ones, they have, a dedicated spatial chip. So X-Real's X1 chip. So, for things like, how you're tracked, how things move, when you're wearing the glasses, you can do all that with a button right on the side.
All right. So you've got X-Real giving you the virtual huge screens, but you don't have to carry the monitor around. I get that. You've got the power bank. You've got the Codis mini PC. How does this work in practice? How do you arrange this around yourself?
Yeah, so it's a lot easier than I thought it would be. I just, so I always bring, a small mechanical keyboard and a Bluetooth trackball mouse. So I always bring those with me. So it's like, okay, let me add those. So I have those set up on, the table or wherever I'm working. I have the mini PC plugged into the power bank. And it's one USB-C port, and then I have the X-Real ones plugged into the other one.
So the space on the table seems like the big savings here, right? You just have the keyboard, which you would have had anyway. You don't have to have the laptop. You don't have to have the screen up. The screen can be wherever you want it. Were there any other advantages that you found to using it this way?
Yeah. So, actually, before I wrote this article, 2 weeks ago, I was in New York for the Nintendo Switch experience. Mm-hmm. And I actually brought the whole setup with me. And, on the way there, I set it up on the tray table of the airplane.
Did you get any looks?
No, I thought I would get more, but everybody seemed kind of, sleeping or, doing their own thing. So
I guess they just don't notice that you don't have a screen. They see a keyboard and okay, that guy's working. And then you have glasses on. Do you ever get anybody asking you about it while you're using it?
This one, not so much yet. I kind of just went to the cafe real quick to take the pictures for the article. And I've been using it, around home and in my hotel when I was in New York to write my hands-on for the Switch too.
It seems like you like it, though, that you might keep on using it.
Oh, I absolutely love it. It is just so nice. because I already, had my, mechanical keyboard, my trackball mouse. So to have just a bigger screen, because with the X-Trail 1 glasses, you can switch to an ultra wide mode. And the way that I do everything is I have, one Chrome window on one side, one on the other. So you don't have to switch back and forth between windows.
Yeah. And they could be as big as you want them to be, basically.
Yeah. I think, maybe it's 154 inches, but it's a massive screen.
Yeah, more than you would probably need for a Chrome browser usually. That's amazing. I'm fascinated by this, and I kind of want to try it. If people want to follow in your footsteps, do you have any advice?
Yeah. So I used, I reviewed the Mind 1 last year, and, I sent that back. So I reached out to Codis, and they sent me the Mind 2S, which is super powerful and probably overkill for most people. But you can get the Mind 1 for a lot cheaper right now. And to bring down the price too, you don't have to go with the X-Trail 1s. You could go with the, I think the Airs is, the previous version. So you could probably put the whole setup together for around, $900 to $1,000.
Yeah, which is, you're talking cheap, thin and light laptop price for sure at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any downsides you'd warn people about?
Downsides.
I mean, the only one I could think of is I guess you have to plug in stuff, right? With a laptop, you just flip it open and you're on your way.
Yeah, you just flip it open and you're ready to go. I think if you're used to working on a laptop, this might be a bit different for you. But if you're primarily a desktop user like myself, this kind of gives you that experience anywhere.
Well, folks, you got to go read the article. Like I said, it's tomsguide.com. We'll have a link in our show notes as well. Anthony, if folks want to follow what you do, where should they go?
Yeah, Tom's Guide. Yeah, that's where I, have all my stuff.
Fantastic. Thanks, man, for chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you have feedback about anything that gets brought up on the show, get in touch with us on the socials at DTNS Show on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Mastodon at mastodon.social. For TikTok and YouTube, you can find us at Daily Tech News Show.
I want my dog to live a long, happy life, maybe even hit 19. So I feed them Ollie. Ollie's fresh and nutritious human-grade meals are made to support their health and happiness with protein-packed recipes dogs go crazy for, like beef with sweet potatoes, turkey with blueberries, or lamb with cranberries. Honestly, you might start thinking, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie. Head to ollie.com/healthypup and use code HEALTHYPUP to get 60% off your first box of meals. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/healthypup and enter code HEALTHYPUP to get 60% off your first box. Feed your forever friend with Ollie. Thumbtack presents the ins and outs of caring for your home. Out. Uncertainty. Self-doubt. Stressing about not knowing where to start. In. Plans and guides that make it easy to get home projects done. Out. Word art. Sorry, live, laugh lovers. In. Knowing what to do, when to do it, and who to hire. Start caring for your home with confidence. Download Thumbtack today.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, James asked a question that led us to a better understanding.
So James wrote to us in response to Tuesday's discussion with Bodhi Grimm on 5-minute EV charging and asked how 1,000-volt EV architecture compares to others on the road, wondering if it's marginally or significantly better and whether voltage is even the right metric to focus on. So we reached out to both Bodhi and Steve Sheridan and found out that 1,000-volt EV architecture provides several notable benefits compared to the more common 400-volt systems found in many electric vehicles today. The higher voltage allows for significantly faster charging, potentially up to 2.5 times faster, assuming the charging infrastructure and the vehicle are designed to handle similar current levels. In addition to speed, higher voltage systems can reduce the size and weight of onboard components, such as wiring and power electronics, which can improve overall vehicle efficiency and performance. Currently, most EVs use the 400-volt systems, though some newer models are adopting 800-volt or higher platforms. Charging networks are beginning to support these higher voltages as well, but compatibility can vary. So while voltage is a key factor in determining charging speed and system efficiency, it's not the only one. Current amperage, battery design, and thermal management all play crucial roles as well. So while 1000 volt architecture has clear advantages, its real world benefits depend on how the entire system is engineered.
Very interesting. A lot of benefits there. And I can get down with 2.5 times faster charging like that right there. I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah. And this is really interesting because I think we're currently shopping for a new EV. And so are a lot of my friends. And so we've been talking a lot in kind of our little group about, what, especially long term, like what are the benefits of different EVs. And I keep hearing my friend say, for one thing, his particular brand of EV is not that efficient. And now I can kind of see, okay, this is what you're meaning, and that it all kind of interconnects together. Cause I think a lot of times, especially since EV is new tech, I have no idea how to judge. Not that I know how to judge like ICE cars very well, but it's just interesting. It's like a new, space for us to kind of exchange our anecdotal knowledge about our own EVs and try to relate that to actual decision making. So cool.
Yeah. New place to grow our own understanding of how it all works. Absolutely. We're still in early days when it comes to EV.
Well, what are you thinking about? Got some insight into a story? Share it with us. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Thanks to Anthony Spadafora and James, of course, for contributing to today's show. And thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. This show is made possible by our patrons at patreon.com/DTNS. If you want music news and you got less than 5 minutes, check out dailymusicheadlines.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
If you wear glasses, you know how hard it is to find the perfect pair. But step into a Warby Parker store, and you'll see it doesn't have to be. Not only will you find a great selection of frames, you'll also meet helpful advisors and friendly optometrists. Yep, many Warby Parker locations also offer eye exams. So the next time you need glasses, sunglasses, contact lenses, or a new prescription, you know where to look. To find a Warby Parker store near you or to book an eye exam, head over to warbyparker.com/retail.